What's up guys, Jim Collector here, back again with another unboxing and review, and today we are checking out the Hot Toys exclusive Artisan Darth Vader Sith Apprentice, aka Anakin, either from episode 3 or the Ahsoka series, kind of wherever you fall on that line. And the question we're going to be answering today is this figure worth the price of admission? Because that is definitely up in the air at the moment. So guys, stick around as we unbox Artisan Anakin. Alright, ladies and gents, here he is, the Star Wars Darth Vader Sith Apprentice DX47AE Anakin. The Hot Toys exclusive, as we can see from this sweet, shiny exclusive sticker up the top. Now, first thoughts on the box art, it looks good. Is it the best DX box art I've ever seen? No, this was a pretty quick release, and I do think they kind of cut some corners here. You can kind of see the cardboard lines throughout, which kind of feels a little bit on the lower end side than what we used to see. But I do dig the actual art design of it itself. I like how this splays up to the side. You have all this smooth bit, Anakin with an iconic pose in the middle, and then this is kind of a nice textured feel around the sides. Of course, you do have all the information on the front and this nice red DX sticker down below as well. On the side, you kind of got more of the same. I do like that they're keeping that red Sith motif throughout. All the information, a few of their official stores on the side back there as well, and of course a Disney logo. Do love a shiny Disney sticker. You got that DX emblem up the top, and then pretty much more of the same on the side. Now we do slide this on off like so, and that does reveal our artwork inside, which is very nice. I do like this. I always think these would make absolutely fantastic posters if I could ever be bothered to frame them. But yeah, we've got photos of the figure itself here. This is of course the prototype, which looked phenomenal. We'll have to see if the head sculpt holds up. From what I've seen, it is definitely a little bit of a downgrade from this, but we will see that as we get through it. But there we go, our first look into the dark side Anakin. You do get this part of the base, which is nice. It's made of like wood, it's not cardboard, which I kind of dig. Interesting to see what all this stuff is on the back there, but there we go. But it's a nice thing to have. I don't think I'm going to display him with this, so this might unfortunately just stay in the box. Alright, so here we go. We do have to remove this, keeping that red motif throughout, which I really am digging. Well done guys, and we have our first look into everything that comes with this figure, excluding the base of course, which is below. So you do have two compartments. The body is housed in foam, which is what we used to with DXs, but then the rest is plastic. I would like them to adopt full foam one day. We'll see, maybe that will happen, maybe it never will. Alright, so there we have everything out of the box. We're going to check out the body in just a minute. For now, we're going to go through the accessories tray. First things first, we do of course have his Jedi cloak or robes. I'm going to call it a cloak, it feels like a cloak. And there we are. And guys, this is some nice material. It's some sort of suede, but it's very nicely done. So soft and supple, a real nice silky look to it. It does have a wire in the hood. Let's get this bit of cardboard out of the way. Does have a wire in the hood, which is nice to see as well. It's quite a soft wire, which we'll have to see if that hinders or makes it easier to pose with this. That will be quite interesting to see. We do of course get our instruction manual. Let's get that out of here. And then we pop off this tray to reveal the accessories, and of course that all important head sculpt. Now I will address this straight away. We're going to check this out in a little bit more detail later, so stay tuned. Alright, the accessories then. So we do of course get this display base, which is nice. I do like it. It's nicely painted. It's interesting. A little bit high, so we're going to see how that fits in my details. I'm not sure I'm going to use this base, to be honest. we'll see. But it's nicely done. It is quite light, so it doesn't feel too substantial. Doesn't bother me too much. I don't mind a light base as long as it supports the figure well enough. But there we go. Moving on, of course, we do get some hands and his mechanical arm, which we've seen before. I don't think this is really different from the episode 3 Dark Side Anakin that we initially got, but this is still a beautiful looking accessory. I love the gold and black. The design of this thing is stellar, and of course you've got all the details in the forearm here. The hands are fully jointed as well, so you can make him do any sort of gesture you want, rude or not so, whatever takes your boat. And of course there is a double bend as well. Not sure I'll use it, maybe I will. I think photos wise this could be quite interesting to see. Alright then, we're going to take a look at one hand and one gloved hand, starting with a normal hand. Hot Toys, they need to up their hand game just a little bit. At least with these artisan releases, I feel like we should be kind of getting maybe closer to in-art quality. Although to be fair, not all in-art hands are made equal. For example, the latest Joker that I got, the hands on that, absolutely phenomenal, but that is their highest ranked figure. But then this is Hot Toys' highest ranked figure, so maybe better hands. Now there's nothing wrong with these per se, they're just a little bit soft. And in fact, they're actually physically soft as well. They're quite a pliable mold, which isn't a bad thing. That's not a complaint. I actually don't mind that. I think it will make them a little bit less likely to damage. And there is some nice kind of work through here. It's just needs a little bit more sharpness in the paint and details. Moving on though to one of his gloved hands. These are, I think, a bit better done. I like the fabric. You can kind of see this looks like a real leather throughout this. They've done a really good job. They always kill it with gloved hands, so nothing special, but it looks pretty decent. And of course you do get some other hands. You don't get a lot, including what we've got, 2, 4, 6. You get 8 in total, including the 2 on the figure, so that's interesting to note. Of course you do get a couple of, okay, I am going to go through these. You do get a fisted hand, and then of course a lightsaber holding hand from both sides as well. So you get 2 fisted hands, 2 lightsaber holding hands. So you can have him holding it either in his gloved hand or his non-gloved hand. So I do like that. And here is the 2 lightsaber hilts that do come with the figure, and these are nicely done. You of course get your light up USB hilt and then your non-light up hilt here. These are really nicely done hilts. I think Hot Toys did a fantastic job on these. They've managed to get rid of these seam lines, so it is like seamless. So there used to be a seam line that used to run down the middle. That's completely gone now. No seam lines at all, which really helps with the realism. Paint apps, superb. Do love all the detail, even like the coloration on the hilt throughout. So really, really good job on this. Not so good a job on the light up one, because although he does have a red and a blue hilt, which is great if you don't want to light them up, there is a red LED in this, as I saw in Will Foxification's review of it, which means if you try to put the blue lightsaber hilt in, let's just grab that out quick. So this is the blue hilt, it will be red, and then it will transition into this kind of, kind of bluish color. Now, one thing I can think of that will be cool for that is you can maybe make it want to look like he's bleeding the kyber crystal and turning it into a red saber. I suppose that's a possibility that you could do with it. So that could be something that you could do creatively, but yeah, that's not ideal. But the hilt itself is nicely done, and I do like that we have the option. I wish they'd improve the quality of these, probably with a Neo LED style strip. I do think they look better once they're lit up. So if you're going to have a lit up lightsaber, Neo LED is the way to go. These baselit ones don't quite do it for me. Alright, we're almost at the end, and now it's time for the juicy bits. So let's check out the head sculpt. And there he is. That is our dark side Anakin. And if I'm being honest, this sculpt I think looks pretty damn good. I don't know about you. This is my preference. Obviously, we have the light side version. That is a really strong sculpt. For me, this one may be slightly better. I mean, maybe I'm just saying that just because this is the one I have and I don't have the other one. This would have been my preference either way, but this likeness is superb. Now, is it a 10 out of 10 likeness? Definitely not. You can 100% see Hayden. It's a huge improvement over the original, but I would put this as an 8 out of 10 on the likeness. His face slightly too pinched in the middle, I feel, is an issue that Hot Toys has with his likeness, so not completely there for me, but still really good. Rooted hair wise, mine looks like it's safe. I can't see any kind of dry dandruff looking glue, which is nice to see. It kind of sculpts in nicely. They've got these sculpted sideburns on the side here, so I think these look pretty good. In terms of the actual sculpt itself, really nice. Not much softness here. Now, there is a bit of a downgrade between this and the prototype, but come on, we kind of know that going forwards. It's all about how much of a downgrade you get, and there's not a massive one on this. It's just a little bit softer. That's it, but the softness isn't too bad. Like, you can see the mole on his chin here. The skull is nice. The scar is nicely detailed. This is a really nice looking sculpt, and I think Hot Toys have done a really good job on this. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to pop the head on the body and we're going to check out its articulation. One thing to address before popping the head on is I absolutely hate these neck connectors. This one's slightly better than the others, like the one we have on more, but this is definitely not my preferred way of doing it. To pop the head off, so you do have to there is a twisting motion you need to do with Anakin to get him off. Don't just try and put it up just because there is a teeth system in there. I like that there's a bit of a mirror reflective surface there as well. But yeah, you do have to twist it off, and then you have to make sure you're careful with this bit. The eyes are a little bit better on the dark side Anakin here, but with a lot of the other ones of this neck connector, you catch the eyes quite a lot, and yeah, you've got to line this up nicely. Right, let's see if I can do this on camera. Nope. There we go. So I had to do that off camera there. That was a bit of a struggle. Don't love how that works, but there we go, ladies and gents. That is our dark side Anakin, all suited and booted and ready to go. And once you've got these all together, it looks phenomenal. It really does. The hair, also just wanted to touch on that, a bit too dark. It should be a lighter shade, kind of like a sandy brown from my memory. Although, actually, to be fair, in Ahsoka, it is a bit darker than it is in Revenge of the Sith. I need to remember, this is an Ahsoka figure. This isn't a Revenge of the Sith figure. It's based off of Ahsoka, and he does look slightly different. So that is worth remembering. Now, the body itself, nice. They've done a good job here. From what I remember, it's a slight upgrade from the original Dark Side Anakin that we got. The body is a little bit fuller. Proportions look a bit more realistic as well. Movement-wise, those joints are buttery smooth as well, but you get a good range of motion throughout to the sides there. There is, of course, double bend in that elbow and a double bend in that knee as well, which is really nice to see. In terms of moving forwards, he's a bit restricted moving these arms forwards, just due to the kind of the suit, the tabard here as well. So that's something to bear in mind. He does, of course, have a bicep swivel, but the actual outfit itself, the tailoring is lovely. This fabric, just like his cloak, feels really nice and soft to the touch. The pleather, and yes, unfortunately it is pleather, but the pleather feels nice and smooth as well. And then the boots are also quite nicely done. With the feet, you do get a bit of ankle movement, which is good. It's not a split cut boot, so just be careful that this might kind of degrade over time if you're doing a lot of posing. But one thing I like is there is a side swivel on the ankle, which just means when we do poses a bit like this, for example, where he's leaning to the side, we can put that bend into that ankle, which looks more realistic than having it sticking out to the side like that. That really kind of helps with that realism when you do these kinds of poses like so. But fantastic suit, I do like it. The belt is all sculpted. This is, there's a fabric here with pleather laid over the top, and then the attachments to the belt are all molded plastic. But there we go, guys. That is our dark side Anakin. What we're gonna do now is dark side Anakin, Sith Apprentice Darth Vader. My mistake. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna whack him in a few poses and give you my final thoughts. One thing that I did notice, which is pretty shoddy from Hot Toys, is how gross this kind of seam line is, where they've obviously attached the rooted hair cap afterwards. It's pretty obvious. I mean, it is covered by the hair, so that's not the end of the world, but still, that looks pretty sloppy. Alright, so here's Anakin himself in our first pose, and we've gone pretty basic for this pose here. He's just kind of standing there with his lightsaber at the ready. And first impressions, once you got this figure on the shelf, posed up in the way that you like, he does look really, really good. But that doesn't mean that he's perfect, and he does have some shortcomings, which we'll explore shortly. But first of all, we're going to dive in and check out that head sculpt in better detail. Alright, and here we have a close-up look at that head sculpt, and well guys, I mean, what do you think? Is this a good enough likeness? I think it's really strong, but it's definitely not a 10 out of 10. You can tell who this is, you can tell this is Anakin Skywalker as portrayed by Hayden Christensen, but it's not an exact shrink ray of his likeness. It is pretty good though. I do prefer this one to the light side one. That might just be personal preference. I quite like the sculpt of the mouth here, the fact you can see his teeth. Obviously he has a bit of eyeshadow and stuff going on here, so it does look pretty good. Obviously the Sith eyes here are more related to Ahsoka, so they're more of an orange rather than yellow. That is something that I'll be looking to change. I will be looking to get yellow eyes to replace those orange ones, so I'll probably do a video later on that. The rooted hair looks okay on mine. Obviously we saw that kind of gross sculpt line earlier, but the rest of it looks pretty good, so I've got no real concerns there. Obviously it's a bit too dark. It does need to be a bit lighter to really kind of show the color of Hayden Christensen's hair in both Revenge of the Sith and of course the Ahsoka series. Now here's a quick look at him in his kind of cloak or robe. The fabric's really nice, as I mentioned in the unboxing segment, but unfortunately that hood just is awful. The wire isn't strong enough, it doesn't sit as it should sit, and that might partly because it's rooted hair, but all in all, I just don't like how this looks, and it's really difficult to get it looking nice. It's definitely not one of the best hooded cloaks that Hot Toys have done. Alright, into pose number 2 now, and I wanted to go a little bit more dynamic, and actually I stole this pose directly from some promotional photo shoots that Hayden Christensen did for Revenge of the Sith, so you might recognize this from some of that promotional work. Posing wise, this figure is really easy to pose around. It has nice articulated ankles, the joints are pretty solid, the tabard does get slightly in the way of the shoulders, which restricts overhead movement slightly, but for the most part you can pretty much pull off what you want. The hands even connect in very easily. The only concern I have is with the boots, the pleather there with the ankles, they do crease quite a lot, even in this kind of slight pose here, which is a concern over time. Are they gonna flake away as we've seen in the past? Okay, and here is our final pose, and I went as dynamic as possible just to kind of show off how good the posing is with this Anakin. Now I don't know if it was like this on the original. I did have the original, but I wasn't quite ballsy enough to try poses like this. As you can see, he's on the rotating turntable without a stand, and he is holding this pose, and my turntable is quite rocky, so he does kind of move around a fair bit, but he didn't fall over after doing this at all. Of course, it does require a bit of balancing, and would I really pose him like this? Maybe not, but this is a nice option, especially for photographers out there. But guys, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go through my final thoughts, the good and bad of this figure, and I'll give you my final rating. So one of the first negatives is, of course, the pleather. So I am worried about the boots here cracking over time from even mild posing like this. I can already see crease marks that do tend to stay. And of course, the tabard itself is also pleather, which will be prone to flaking. So that is one of the bad parts of this figure. Another bad thing about this figure is unfortunately that rooted hair. Hot Toys just seem to be struggling to really nail down their rooting process. It's styled okay, my one especially came out alright, but it's a bit too dark from that product, and as you can see here, there's that really unsightly seam line and bad glue work. Another bad thing about this figure that boggles my mind a little bit is the cloak they provided. It's really nicely tailored and the fabric is beautiful, but the wires and the way it fits, they just really don't do it for me. Finally, on to the positives, the head sculpt. Although the likeness isn't perfect, I give it about probably an 8 out of 10. The sculpt work itself is really nice. There's a lot of detail within, and the expression really captures dark side Anakin perfectly. Plus, it's the best Anakin sculpt we've got in 1.6 thus far. Another positive is, of course, the tailoring. Despite the material choices, the tailoring has been done really well. All the clothing fits and looks proportionate to his body. Nothing looks overly large and bulky. So I do have to say, I think Hot Toys did a really good job with that. And also the cloak beneath the tabards feels really premium. So with all that said, what rating would I give this figure? If I'm honest, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. I do like the likeness, but it's not a 10 out of 10. The pleather materials, and I didn't mention this previously, but the base is quite lackluster as well. Just kind of brings this figure down, and also the issues that Hot Toys seem to be having with rooted hair just doesn't really lend to this. Yes, it looks good on display, but I'm worried about its longevity, and as you saw, that egregious seam line on my one. So I think 7 out of 10 is fair for this figure. Guys, let me know in the comments down below, what do you think? Is this figure worth the price tag? Is it not? Honestly, if I was paying secondhand prices, I would definitely say no. Even at retail, I would say it's a bit of a push. So guys, that is the video. Thanks for stopping by and checking this out. As always, this is Jim Collector, and I'll see you in a future video.